I'll start off with saying I just wasn't very good in high school. I was like a late bloomer or whatever.
If you've watched the NBA playoffs this year, you've probably heard an announcer talk about Duncan Robinson's unique path to the NBA. In the Eastern Conference Finals, he made 23s against the Celtics on 41% shooting. Just 6 years ago, Robinson was playing in the Division III National Championship game. It's a pretty incredible story. For context, he was the second leading scorer of that Williams College team. The leading scorer, big man Michael Mayer, is not exactly playing in the NBA Finals. A quick LinkedIn search shows that he's now a mechanical engineering PhD student at Tufts. Yet his teammate and the second leading scorer is now a starter in the NBA Finals. What's especially crazy is if you watch that national championship, the Williams offense didn't run through Duncan Robinson. It ran through Mayer in the post. You'd expect the future NBA starter to be the one ISOing and creating, but that wasn't necessarily the case. Now, that's not to say Robinson wasn't impressive. First of all, Williams is one of the best D3 programs in the country. They won a national championship in 2003, and that same year they actually upset a Division I program, Holy Cross, on the road. The very best D3 teams in any given year are closer than you might think to lower-end D1 teams. Duncan Robinson was also just a freshman when he was already starting in the national championship, and clearly he was impressive enough to catch John Beilein's attention.
At first, Coach Beilein just reached out. He was like, if you want to maybe come as a walk-on, we might have a spot for you. And he looked at some of my film, and all of a sudden, like a week later, I was on campus, official visit, committed on my visit, and did 4 years in Michigan, sat 1 and played 3.
Mike Maker was the Williams head coach at the time, a former John Beilein assistant. So as you can imagine, Williams and Michigan had extremely similar offensive systems. Because of that familiarity, and because of Robinson's shooting ability at 6'7", Beilein took a shot on him. In this video, I'll be showing you game film from Williams, Michigan, and the Heat. We'll start with the national championship game from 6 years ago, and then compare how all 3 of those teams have used Robinson. There's some similarities and there's some differences. If you like this video, please go ahead and do all the things you normally do for YouTube videos. If you really like this video, I have a college basketball newsletter you might be interested in. Right now, we're doing team previews for the upcoming season with X's and O's and analytics. Villanova was last week, with a new team coming every single Monday. Williams ran John Beilein's famous two-guard offense, which is very similar to the Princeton offense. Their go-to play in the national championship was the point series, where a big pops out to the elbow area and then triggers split action. Duncan Robinson's wearing number 32, and here you can see he was almost always the player receiving the split, giving him 2 main options to either curl if his man trails or reject if his man cheats over the top. NBA teams don't really run pure Princeton, but by using Bam Adebayo as a passer, the Heat incorporate elements of the Princeton maybe the most of any team in the league. These are very similar examples of Duncan Robinson using action to cut to the basket against aggressive defenders. In the championship, Robinson didn't score any points off the splits. Instead, he would exit out to the corner and serve as a floor spacer, helping open up the middle of the court for his teammates. Here's a different Princeton set, the Chin series. Robinson receives the back screen, but again is mostly being used as a decoy, spacing out to the corner. This play is still Chin, but now specifically designed for Robinson. After receiving the back screen, they re-screen for a quick shot. Sure enough, Beilein used that exact play for him at Michigan. Another favorite for Robinson was Michigan's wide pin down series, allowing him to come off for a 3 or curl into the paint. Robinson would also reject the initial pin, only to sprint right back into it like you see here. to start the second half of the national championship, Williams went to that pin for Robinson, or at least it looked like it, with the play actually designed to use Robinson as a screener to steal a layup. So we've seen two different ways of using misdirection to generate open looks: the chin rescreen and the wide pin down. The Heat also use misdirection for Robinson, but it's usually on dribble handoffs. He'll run all the way through the handoff and then sprint right back to where he came from. Another set used for Robinson was slice. Here he cuts off the slice screen and draws the foul. Williams also used him as the initial screener to then put him in screen the screener action for a shot. Of all the plays from this championship game, this one looks the most like present-day Duncan Robinson. They go 5 out on the perimeter just like the Heat do with Bam, and Robinson nails a 3 off the handoff. But this season, Robinson and the Heat have taken his handoff game to another stratosphere. He's the only player in the league who averaged more than 3 points per game on handoffs. And he did it with incredible efficiency, shooting 47% off handoffs while taking almost all threes.
Like 3 or 4 years ago, and prior to that, my whole career, my mindset was always to take that dribble in and shoot like a 17-footer. And I thought it was a pretty high percentage shot for me. And like last year in Philly, at the beginning of the year, their analytics guy was like, here's what you shoot it well, but here's what that shot's worth.
Right.
If you sidestep, here's what it's worth. And when I saw that, I was like, it actually messed me up at the beginning of the season because I was thinking about it too much. But now it's like programmed into all of us to just sidestep.
Yeah. So I took that same shot at Michigan.
Yeah.
And that was
the step into.
Yeah. And that was one of the first things when I got to Miami that they said, like, yeah, you're not shooting that anymore. It's either a sidestep or you're hitting a big and chasing.
In college, you could run Robinson off the three-point line and bait him into taking a tough 2. Now with the Heat, he's perfected staying behind the line and taking the more mathematically valuable shot. Here's the biggest difference from the college days to now. Williams had a set where they dribbled at Robinson, having him cut back door and then post up on the block. That's what they look for in a tie game with just over a minute left. Earlier in the game, they ran it and threw the ball inside, with Duncan Robinson hitting a fadeaway post-up jumper. You never know, but I doubt that's a shot he'll be taking in the NBA Finals. Michigan actually ran the same play, but they were looking for a flare screen on the weak side instead of the Robinson post-up. In crunch time with under a minute left, Williams tried using Robinson as a decoy. It looks like they're getting into the slice screen, but they're actually trying to distract the weak side defenders for a slip to the basket, which the defense alertly sniffed out for the turnover. After getting the ball back with 20 seconds left and still down 1, this time Robinson did get a chance to ISO. He missed a difficult shot, but Mayer cleaned up the glass to take the lead, only to then have this happen.
It's good! A 1-point lead! Young up the floor! Down a point! Young in the lane! He got it! He got it!
It would be Robinson's last game at Williams. Eventually, his senior year at Michigan, he'd go back to a national championship game, this time Division I. And obviously now he's in the NBA Finals with the Heat. A crazy story for sure, but Robinson's won wherever he's been. And even though he has a very specialized role for the Heat as a shooter, it's a role that's going to keep him in the NBA for a long time. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.